What's up, everybody? We're back. We're back with that dub, winning Wednesday. Maybe not with the Sixers, but Eagles getting that win on Sunday Night Football versus Green Bay Packers brings us to another healthy and live edition of Fun Show coming your way of Fourth and Go Philly 4-for-4, plus so much more. We might have to start saying 5-for-5, 6-for-6. We got all these teams in Philly anymore, but I'm Dave Gleckner at DGleck on Twitter, and here's Mark Tomasini, my co-host. What's up, bud?
What up? What up? You know what it is? It's me, Philly Sports Source. You know, we're celebrating another Eagles win. Eagles get to the double digits, first team in the NFL to do so. So a lot of good things on the horizon. Holidays around the corner. I get excited.
I do too, man. Let me ask you this question, because it was a nice weekend this last week until all the rain that kind of came down on Sunday. But Thursday, Friday, Saturday, nice Thanksgiving, right?
Yep.
You put up your lights yet?
Yep.
Oh, you're one of those.
Yeah.
Tomorrow's my day. I'll wait till December 1st. I can't do it before then. I don't know what it is.
I did it last night.
All right, you're closer.
I was worried about the rain of today, so I wanted to get it done.
So are you a multicolored, or are you kind of white?
White lights.
I like the white light look too. I do. I always mix it up and put different colors. I think I'm going straight white this year.
It's elegant.
Yeah, and then maybe mix in just maybe a little bit of red somewhere, just a strand or two by itself, just to offset. But yeah, nice. All right,
it up a little bit. That's nice.
Yeah. But we're getting in that spirit. I love it. It's one of my favorite times of year too. There's so many good things about this time of year, but the best thing going right now are our Philadelphia Eagles. 10-1, like Mark said, first team to 10. Guess what hit my bank account for Monday morning?
There you go.
Over 9.5 wins. I'm cashing before December, the win total. Yeah. I'm loving it. It was a nice little treat. I looked at it. I said, I know I bet. Oh, okay. That's where that came from. So nice to wake up to. Nice to see them already get there. But let's talk about the Green Bay Packers, who rumbled in here Sunday night and put up little resistance on defense, but gave us a little fight at the end with their offense. The Eagles really did what I think we kind of thought they were going to do, and that's focus on this run game. I didn't think they'd go for 350, 360.
Right.
But I did think that it would be a very big focal point for this team, and they would try and get back to basics. And they did this week, and they needed it. They needed every yard they got.
They really did. I mean, you look like early that they were going to run away with it, but Green Bay came right back. I think they tied it, or they took the lead.
14-13.
14-13 because Elliott missed extra point. So they came right back real quick, because it honestly looked like we were just going to dominate out the start. But like you said, they needed every yard. Again, this team wins in different ways. Now, obviously, they haven't won 10 different ways, but, some days, some games are more running. Some days are just more Jalen running. However they do it. I think the thing it shows is they're multi-dimensioned.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that can help them, whether it's a weather issue or just what the opposing defense is bringing. They need to find a way to win in all facets. And I think they've shown that they can. They've shown that they can. So, for them to be able to bounce back, after it was just a very big momentum swing type of game.
I agree.
Very big.
What I was most happy about, and you probably were too, and what you're alluding to, is really they've been tested, we'll call it 3-4 games this year. Let's go back to Arizona, a test that they had to finish the game with, and they finished it, luckily, with them missing a field goal, but they went down and did their thing early and often. They had to do that also in the Indianapolis game recently, had to finish the game. They finished it with a great offensive drive, and they did it again this week where they finished the game. And what we mean by that is, Green Bay had a slight chance at the end, but they were down 10. The Eagles drove down the field, held it for 5-6 minutes, kicked that field goal to get them up 10. And they're finding ways to win in so many different ways that really gives me confidence for what this team can do come January.
Well, the playoffs is a different animal. Like, it's never, it's for the playoffs, it's all about getting in. Doesn't matter if you're the first seed or you're the 7th seed. If you get yourself in there, it's a whole new season, literally a whole new season, even though, it's one game, do or die. The stakes change, the teams change, the way that they go about things change. It's do or die. So you don't have an option to be passive. Like everything is pedal to the metal. You're going to get tested different ways. If you play a team that you played earlier in the year, they're going to say, okay, what did we do against them? Why did we lose? How can we fix it? What can we? So you better be ready for everything. And it
Right.
shows all these tests. Obviously, would you like to see them roll away? Of course we would. But it shows that when push comes to shove, they find that answer, that proper answer to get back.
Yeah, and I don't even want to limit it to those games. There was a game earlier in this year. I'm trying to remember it off the top of my head, but I'll have to look it up, where they just ran the ball for the last 8 minutes of the game. They've done things that they just, I guess, that looks like to me that was that the Cowboys game. It might have been. They had a drive late in the game that just sucked the life.
But the last play of the drive was a touchdown to Devontae.
Yeah, so it was a 13-play, 65-yard drive for 8 minutes that put that game away. They've just been, up to the task. Oh yeah, and the Lions game. I was thinking the
Lions game too, for sure. That was where Jalen won I think Jalen won that game himself with the way that he was running the ball. He was running too, right?
Yeah, but then they created those first downs late to close the game. I think they even went for a fourth. If I remember, they had a fourth down late in that game. Yeah, 4th and 1. They went up and won the game. So yeah, just a lot of resemblance of a season-long Eagles performance in one game there with the Green Bay Packers. You had the great running game. You had some good defensive stops really in the turnover battle. And that's how they lead the league in turnovers created now, I think 23. So it's a microcosm of really what they've been doing all year wrapped up into this one game. I'll say coming out of it, though, I'm a little nervous. And it's not nervous from a perspective of, hey, can we be good? Can we get far? No, it's just the C.J. Gardner-Johnson injury is slightly, I'll use the word devastating. It hurts. And then to see that the running game, once again, from a defensive perspective, was kind of exposed. So those two things, and then losing him, really, I know Reed Blankenship came in and made a couple of gambles, and they worked, but he also had a couple that he flew by, Christian Watson. I'm a little concerned there.
So at first I thought this was a bigger injury than it was. Obviously, a lacerated kidney is not good, but it's something that heals on its own. And it sounds like it could be like 3, 4, 5 weeks max. Now, it takes you out of the season. I mean, let's be real. They're in the playoffs as of this point.
Yeah.
Hard to believe that they're not. Obviously, do you want to lose them? Do you want to lose that continuity? Not at all. But it's not the end of the world. I think with their schedule, I was saying it to my friends either yesterday or the day before. I said they have 3 more losses in them max.
Yeah.
So 10-1. So that puts them at 10-4. And then 11, 12, 13. So 13-4. Because I mean,
3-3 is the worst.
3-3 is the worst that happens, and I don't think that it all falls on him, and that's why I think it's obviously it is a big deal. And if there are any complications with it, unfortunately, that stinks. But I don't think he is the difference between a win and a loss in all those games. I really don't. Maybe one game, if they get completely burnt out over the top and it's all Blankenship's fault, you could see that. But I think that maybe happens one game out of the games that they have left. I mean, they don't really go against teams that can really take you over the top. They're good at limiting teams to, they don't give up the big play. Everything is in front of them. And that is part of Gannon's defense.
Yeah.
They take a lot of chances, so they limit what goes beyond them.
Yeah.
So I don't want to downplay the injury because I'm not. Now, if you don't have him in the playoffs, I think that's a different monster because I think you do need a player of his caliber and his intensity out there in that time. So I'm just at this point, make sure he's healthy when you bring him back.
Yeah, I guess for me, I look at it and I say 6 interceptions leads the NFL. there's a bend but don't break system in place here, which you mentioned to and alluded to.
Something they've been doing for years, the Eagles.
But I need, if you're not going to break, I need those interceptions because there's too many yards being given up. There's too many holes out there. And the reason we're being successful this year is the opportunities we've created on defense. So it concerns me. It concerns me a ton. And I just wonder what your thoughts are of this one guy, number 27, that's sitting there on his couch, just like Sue and Linval Joseph were. And do you think that's even a potential? And we're talking Malcolm Jenkins.
Well, I mean, obviously, when you have him, I think he was talking to John Clark, and he was saying, I could still go out there and do it. It'd be fun. I wouldn't be opposed to it at all. I think it's something that everybody's buzzing and stirring now because he said it and he put it out there. I mean, obviously, he's not going to cost much if he wants to go out there and do it. I'm definitely I'm in favor of it, but I'm not clamoring or banging the table for it. I think you give Blankenship a shot. I mean, I know that, he's not the speediest guy and he gives up plays, but, I mean, maybe Malcolm is in game shape. That's what I would want to know or need to know, because if not, it's not that much of a difference of a move. It's more of a big name, and I love his intensity, but are you bringing him in just to bring him in like that? I need to know, is it purely that he for sure right now is a much better player than Kayvon Wallace and Reed Blankenship? Or are you just doing it to say that you put all the chips in? Like the Eagles at that point, for what they had at the defensive tackle position when it came to Linval and Sue, I think when you look at that scenario, those two guys were better than anything they had, even including Fletcher Cox. Well, I mean, you have Javon Hargrave too, but you needed more rotational guys there. And you got two guys who were once all pros at an older age. The two of them could essentially converge into one player with their production and what they can give snap wise. I need to know, is Malcolm Jenkins that incredibly much better than Reed Blankenship right now?
Well, for me, and what I would say, and I'm not the biggest Malcolm guy. I was, when he was here, I loved him, but maybe the last year or two, it was time to go. And then, obviously that kind of that rose lost his petals when it went to New Orleans, and that's why he's out of the league right now. And from this sense, he's got to play 6 games and 3 in the playoffs. I can sign up for that, and I think you've got enough gas in that tank and enough savviness in this veteran that I would be very, very interested in. I'd be on the phone and figuring out what his condition is right now to see if it is a viable option, because I am that concerned about the CJ Gardner-Johnson injury. He's been, to me, the best player on defense. I know Slay's had his year, but it's been quiet the past 4 or 5 weeks outside of his early season games. And I mean, TJ Edwards, okay, good. But it's been CJ, I feel like. And I don't know if I'm ready to lay my defense on this young, undrafted guy that was on a practice squad 2 weeks ago, and Kayvon Wallace, who can't break through. So, yeah, I'm very interested. I'm with you. I don't want it to be for a gimmick. So you got to figure out what type of shape and what kind. You got to work him out. But if he checks a couple of boxes, I'm in.
Right. Yeah, I just think that, I know you say like Slay and Bradbury have been quiet, but it's been a good quiet because they haven't really gotten burnt. They haven't
McLaurin lit them up.
McLaurin did, but they were still able to keep them. Like, I think I think we're just going to be sitting in a bend but don't break scenario. And McLaurin has generally always had Slay's number, just their whole careers.
Yeah,
that's always been a thing. That's a known commodity. I mean, that's the only game that I can say, like, yeah, Slay didn't show up. But
I mean, I even looked this week. The Packers quarterbacks had a 68% completion rate and threw over 250 yards. So I mean, I don't know. Christian Watson, I know it was a big play, but there was room out there. Rodgers missed a couple guys too. Like, I have concerns that the way they play this defense. I don't know if it's as much them. But I mean, this Gannon is just so passive, and just is hoping for one get home. That's what he's really hoping for: one get home, one sack, and then he's off the field. And I get it, but no, Slay and Bradbury are good. I just think CJ's been better.
Yeah.
So That's just my one concern coming out of this game. I'd also like to flip the script and look at the other side of the ball. Is that the last time we're going to see Aaron Rodgers throw a ball for the Green Bay Packers?
That's a good question. I don't think so. I don't think he goes out like that. I really don't.
They said something on the broadcast that, just this day, 17 years ago, 9-1 team was beating the Packers and in came Rodgers, and that was Favre's last game. So,
right. So now it would make sense that it would be Love.
It's so weird.
Rodgers, yeah.
It is so weird, but listen, I don't think he plays this week. I don't
think he plays this week either.
Yeah,
he didn't practice today.
The ribs, you can't mess with those things. I know they got a positive acknowledgement, but if the last game he plays here in the Green Bay, because I don't think he plays for the Packers next year. Now, for the record, I didn't think he was going to play for them this year either. So, missed on that one, but I don't think he's going to play for them. And I do think long-term, Jordan Love's the answer. So it'll just be really interesting if that was it, if it was here in Philly.
Yeah, that would be really interesting. I mean, the whole thing is wild. Just the fact that he got a, $150 million contract for 3 years, and halfway through the season he's done. Like it just, and he hasn't been himself at all this year.
No,
at all.
Good point. I think he's been done since like week 2.
Yeah,
just his mannerisms and the way.
Yeah.
But hey, we move on from Green Bay. A good win, a solid win. In the end, I picked a 7-point game. I think you were somewhere in the same region.
Yeah,
I had 27-20. Obviously, it did. We're 13 points on the other side.
I think I was 27-24.
Yeah, but I do think it's what I expect with this team anymore. And then that's no rip on them, but they're not going to beat teams by 10, 14 points. The secret's out. Everybody wants to play this team, and everybody wants to give their best. So in come the Tennessee Titans, rolling into town, a team that was the number 1 seed in the AFC last year, team that's coming off a really weird loss to the Cincinnati Bengals, but still holds a very solid, what are they, 7-4 overall? Or are they 6-5 now? They're 7-4. Yep, 7-4 overall coming in, and they got a great coach. They have a good, sound, well put together team. They stopped the run. I think they're like 3rd in league against the run. They run the ball. And into that essence, it's a team that matches up well against the Philadelphia Eagles. So I think this is going to be a great, great test. And it's going to go a long way because you got the Titans here. I think the Bears are the week after. No, it's the Giants, then the Bears. You got a stretch here right after that. I mean, it's all NFC East. We're going to see 3 NFC East games out of the last 5. So Giants twice, Cowboys, Saints, Bears mixed in after this one. I hate to say must wins, but it really feels like a must win this week because of the fact that, you win here, you can trip up one of those Giants games. You lose here, each one becomes that much more important.
See, in my opinion, I don't think it's a must win. I'm not saying it's a scheduled loss, as Doc Rivers once famously quoted, but I really don't think it's a must win. Obviously, they get this win, and I think it puts any naysayers and any doubters to rest. Because, like you said, I agree with you. Tennessee matches up very well with us. I mean, it all depends on how really Derrick Henry is the X factor, and that's not really reinventing the wheel when I say that. But the difference of Derrick Henry is a lot of their plays, they do bounce some to the outside, but he does most of his damage running up the middle.
Yeah.
It depends on our additions. This is why Howie went out and got Sue and Joseph, to clog up the middle. Hopefully they are able to do that. They will need to do that to have success. Again, I know they do have plays for Henry where they bounce him to the outside, but he wears you down. That's his point. That's what they're going to do. Green Bay had a lot of success bouncing out to the outside with A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones. Honestly, Eagles win that matchup, the Eagles win the game because I wrote off the Titans pretty early this year. I was like, well, they got rid of A.J. Brown. Treylon Burks hasn't been able to get onto the field. Tannehill is nothing. They've come around. They've gotten better. But I still think that the Eagles are that much better to where it'll be a tough game. It'll be a tough game for sure. But as much as I think the Titans match up well with the Eagles, I think the Eagles just, again, as we talked about earlier, they find ways to win. I think this will be one of those games where they scheme up something to find ways to win. And I think this goes to the offense to help defense. Got to run the ball. I know they have a good rush defense in Tennessee, but if they can win the time of possession battle, I definitely feel good about the Eagles' chances. I think whether, and it might be a game where Hurts has to run a little more, what she did, obviously, the other night. There's a lot to it. But for me, I like their chances, even though the matchup is good for Tennessee, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, a team that can come in and stop the run and a team that can come in and run the ball is kind of, I don't want to call it kryptonite because there's no kryptonite for a team that's 10-1 in this league. But if they can play a game like Washington did, if we look back to the one game that we lost and really keep the ball, keep away, from us, that really presents a difficult challenge. Now, I don't think they can do that because I think Washington did that in such a unique manner with 3.1 yards per carry, right? That was just like they just did it with volume.
They ran the ball when you didn't think they were going to run.
Yeah, and I think if Derrick Henry's to break out and do anything here, he's probably going to do it in bigger chunks, and then we'll be able to shut him down in most of the plays because it's prescriptive. People can see it coming, and the Bengals did last week, and they were able to shut that down. So I think the Eagles can rebound and kind of play one of their better, more all-around games. But I think what the Titans will do, and I'm confident of this in my statement here, is I think they're going to muddy it up. I think they're not going to play a fast-paced game. And I think it's going to be one of those slower-paced Indianapolis Colts types games. So it's gonna take a lot, and it's going to take the Eagles' typical kind of grit to try and pull this one out.
Yeah, I can see that, but I also can see the Eagles are one of those teams who play to their competition. The better the team, I think the better they play. We saw Washington's been playing well, but at the same time, they should have won that game. And I think in that scenario, they kind of played down to them with the mistakes that they made. I think the team just kind of came out flat. So I think in my opinion, that was them playing down to Washington. So with that being said, I think they're up for this challenge. And I actually, for once, think that this might be a game where, the Eagles get a nice, solid, good feeling win here.
Yeah. No, I think they can, and I think they're favored, and they, that's how it'll kind of be perceived outside of our region here. But I do think it's once again a very tough matchup for the Eagles, and they're going to have to show their resolve, and they're going to have to show that they've been able to adjust to these teams. Let's not forget, this is a Tennessee Titans team that had Malik Willis and went toe-to-toe with Patrick Mahomes until the fourth quarter. Overtime. It took overtime, I think, in that one.
Of course.
Yeah, and they're well-respected. They're good. They could have won last week's game, but a couple bounces didn't go their way near the end. They actually have a nice young receiver in Treylon Burks who's very physical. He's not A.J. Brown, and we're going to get there. But they have some over-the-tops, too. Westbrook Akine is solid in the deep game. Obviously, they still have Robert Woods, and they're just solid all around. Now, they do have some injuries on defense that I think will bode our way. But this is not just about the Eagles this week. This is also about A.J. Brown, number 11, Swole Batman. And I think he's going to feel the emotions. And I've been actually a little bit disappointed in his game the past 2 weeks. He's still put up a decent amount of stats and got the touchdown last week, but the 2 fumbles are concerning. Yep. And it's just showing a lack of focus at times. Yes. But I think that focus is going to be on 100 this week.
Yeah, this is a revenge game. He's got to go out there and make it count. Obviously, you look at the records, and he goes from Tennessee to Philly, and, he's got 1 loss on the season so far. So, obviously, when you look at that, advantage A.J. Brown. And he was mad because they weren't even giving him close to top wide receiver money, and you see what he can do on the field. So as much as he's happy to be where he is and he's with his best friend and, this is what he wanted, you still didn't have that feeling of being wanted. So I think you have to go out there. And like you said, and I agree with you, I've been a little disappointed with him lately too. His stats have been okay. He's still, but the fumbles are big.
Mhm.
He's been dealing with an injury here or there. He was, sick last week. Again, he was decent the other night, but it's he definitely needs to earn his keep. I think with this game, just say like, look, I am the guy that you guys traded for. Don't worry about it. And I think he
Yeah.
back
Yeah,
to
it's
that.
just being a
And I
lack of
think he
focus.
goes and he sticks it to him. I really do. I agree. I think it's a lack of focus. I think he just needs to get it back. I think he needs to play comfortable. I mean, there's really the pressure shouldn't be that big on him at this point.
No, they let him go. The
Right.
pressure is actually on them to try and show that they were right. He's just gonna have some fun, and he's gonna have a big game. Is he gonna have a Steelers set game? Nah, I don't see 3 touchdowns in the first, quarter and a half. But he's gonna make them pay. And I think now that we break down this game and look at and get into our predictions, I'll give my way that I think this game goes. I do think, we saw how good this team can be in smash mouth football. But it also started early in the game with a lot of Jalen Hurts RPOs where he kept the ball and ran. And the Green Bay Packers play more of a man to man style and do um, fall victim to that a little bit. Justin Fields had a big game against them early on, too, running the football. So I think the Eagles understood that. I think in this game here, I think the lanes are going to be more in the passing game. And I think it is A.J. Brown. I think it is Devontae Smith. But I also think, a couple of key players. I do think Quez is really starting to find his own here. That touchdown on the back shoulder throw, kind of an underthrown fade, was really a great adjustment. And I think he's starting to feel his way into this offense. The lack of a tight end does hurt. It absolutely does. And where I thought Calcaterra might be a guy or even Stoll that could show up. They just don't. They just don't do it right now.
Yeah.
And I think it's wide receiver, and wide receiver. So I think the three are going to have a big game. I think we're going to even see a little more Kenny G as we progress here. Miles is good, right? Running the ball. We've all been very happy with his game here. But I think in the passing game, it's Kenny G more than anything. I think Miles is not as great of a receiver.
Sure.
So he's good, just not as good as Kenny is. So I see a big passing day from Jalen Hurts. I see a big day from A.J. Brown. And on the defensive side, I do think they step up and they neutralize Derrick Henry. I think Henry still gets about 100, but I don't think it's like a pretty 100. I think it's, he did it last week. He got a 70-yard screen and fumbled near the goal line. Now that got recovered by Treylon Burks for a touchdown, but that's where he did a big of his chunk of his 140. He got it in one play. So I think that might be similar to this week, which I'm fine with. Neutralize it, get the ball back. Don't let them hold it for 40 like Washington did. I think the Eagles will squeeze this one out. I'll take them in a close one, though. I'll take them 23-18. I think they're chasing points a little bit at the end, Tennessee, and get to a funny number to try and get to 23-20. I think it's around 23-12 late. So 23-18 Eagles.
Okay, so yeah, I agree with you about the passing game. Usually they bring all three tight ends at the same time, and they're running the ball. It's just the way it is. It's not. They haven't been having luck, but Goddard's going to be on his way back soon. Avonte Max is on his way back soon. I think they actually they opened the window for Jordan Davis to return, so that's big for the run defense if he's able to get out there and he's ready to go. So that is all good signs for me to go. I don't think the other two are ready this week. But the passing game, I think the Titans are the third worst passing defense in the NFL. So obviously that bodes well for the Eagles. Like you said, the game plan that Green Bay had versus a game plan that Tennessee has definitely allows for a bigger passing game. I actually think that even though I said that they have a couple of losses left potentially, and this could be one of them, in my heart of hearts, I see this being a full cover. I think they win by 7. I like them 31-24, taking care of business at home because I think they play up to the moment. I think AJ plays up to the moment. I think he has a big day. Again, I don't know about 3 touchdowns in the first half, but I think he has a big game. I think he's going to make you big, crucial receptions time and time again, third down receptions. I think they're going to have Tennessee's back against the wall. I think Jalen knows that he needs to have a good passing day, and I think he's going to have that. The MVP talk is getting louder, and I think he wants to join in on that party and make his passing numbers closer to being up there. So I think a big day from him, big day from AJ, and Eagles win by a touchdown.
Yeah. All right. That gets us both with a dub this week, looking at 11-1, which far exceeds our expectations coming into this year. We both had them very well, but 11-1 is just a dream to start to a season. So let's go, Birds. And it's going to be cold out there. Listen, we're on the December cycle right now. Pop 60 today, 40 tomorrow. Get back from the 50s Friday and Saturday, but back down to the 40s Sunday. So it's football weather down at the link, and I can't wait to see how they respond against a very good and a very game Tennessee Titans team. So looking forward to that one very much. But what I'm also looking forward to is another segment of our NFL 3-packs. Mark, did you write them down last week?
I wrote mine down. I keep because I put them in before we go on, and not my week. I can tell you that for sure. Not my week. That's back-to-back 2-loss weeks. I hadn't had a 2-loss week since week 1, and I need to get back on the winning schneid.
Yeah. I think I'm just trying to. I'll have to go back and double check, but I think it was 2-1 here once again. I did have a couple games that I was targeting, and I'm trying to double check here while we're on it. We talked Thursday slate. I remember just as a fun part, and you had one game in there, but I know I had Vikings late, which was good. And then, we'll have to double check. I'll double check the records. But with that said, let's jump into this week's. Oh, I think I had the Titans. I did have the Titans last week. That was my one loss. But let's jump into this week, and I'll let you lead it off and get back on that winning track, I'll call it.
Sure. It's much needed. The Jacksonville Jaguars visit the Detroit Lions on Sunday, and the Jags are coming off a very big win against the Baltimore Ravens. But Baltimore Ravens, they end up letting the Jags back in. They dropped a lot of passes, and, the Jags took a lot of chances, and they ended up winning in a tight one. I think they're coming off of a high. Detroit, they played Buffalo really well, and just I don't know what they were doing on that. What was it? The last drive, they were going for a field goal when really they should have tried to get a touchdown to win the game. One, it would have taken more time off the clock, and they would have kicked the field goal to put it to overtime, but they didn't do it, and they made a mistake. I think Detroit's still hungry when you have Dan Campbell as your coach. They do have a decent team. Like they've shown they are a decent team. Yep. Detroit -1 at home. I like them to win.
Detroit's so funny, right? Like when I don't want to bet on them, they cover. And I didn't want to bet on them on Thanksgiving. And then when I do bet on them, he does his bullshit, dumb shit, and somehow they blow it for me. Like their third team, I find very difficult to back, but I do see value in them every week. They're good enough to cover almost any game. They're good enough to blow every game because of that coach. But so I like the pick this week for you because in the end, I'm also talking about the Jacksonville Jaguars, and Doug Peterson is good to blow a game any week too. Now he pulled his old Philly fashion out last week and went for too late. Agreed with that, especially when you're 3-7, 3-8, whatever you were. But okay, all right. I'm going to move on. This just doesn't sit well with me. I don't know if it's because Giants injuries just are persuading bettors out there and making them not believe in them anymore. But, man, it's the Washington Commanders. And really, is this team like that much better since Taylor Heineke came on? I know they got the Eagles. I know they clipped a couple other teams lately, but I don't know. I just can't see this train keep rolling. I'm going to go with the New York Giants +2.5 at home. I know they're dinged up. I know they got a lot of injuries. But one thing they've done is in a close game, they've won. And they actually covered for me on Thanksgiving, too, with a nice little backdoor to Richie James. Yeah. So I just don't have a lot of faith in a Washington Commanders team on the road as a fave. They blew a game against Minnesota. Otherwise, Heineke would be, undefeated here. But they had to squeak out at Atlanta last week at home.
Right.
And I trust the team that's been winning those close games all year versus a team that I just think is riding a little fluke here with Mr. Nikes. So I'll take the New York Giants plus 2.5. I think it's disrespectful that they're home dogs.
It really is. I completely agree with you. I think, that Thanksgiving Day game was tough for them, going into Dallas, and they played them tough. They played them tight for the most part. So I don't that I agree with you. That's very disrespectful that they're 2.5 point home dogs. I'm going to try this again. I took a chance on them last week with the Rams at 14.5 at Kansas City, and it did not happen. And at that time, I do remember thinking that Stafford would be a quarterback, but it was Bryce Perkins.
Yeah.
Anyway,
but you were almost there. You were almost there.
I was almost there. They hung in tough. They really. I really thought that they were going to pull it out. They didn't. The Seahawks are coming off of a big overtime loss against the LA Raiders. I was about to call them the Oakland, or I'm sorry, the Vegas Raiders, with a Josh Jacobs 86-yard touchdown run to win the game. Obviously, that would be means for Seahawks to come out here and win, but 7.5 point favorites at LA, I don't like that at all. Seattle's been obviously better than expected, but I don't think they're that much better that they're more than a touchdown favorite in LA. And I know LA is no home field advantage. And the Rams played the Chiefs tough. And you talked about how, the Titans play the Chiefs tough. The Chiefs are good. Don't get me wrong, but I don't think they're amazing this year either. So I think they're playable. With that being said, I like the Rams at home plus 7.5.
Nice. And I don't disagree with that in the least bit. I think, used this word earlier, but the luster of the Seahawks has definitely faded. And we've gotten to the point where we can comfortably play against the Seahawks in a lot of situations here and make some money. So I like it this week. I'm going to go to a team that I talked about 2 weeks ago that wasn't dead because I liked the way that their owner gave them a reassurance and gave them a pat on the back and said, just go play some football. And that's the Las Vegas Raiders. And yeah, it hasn't been pretty, but they won in Denver 2 weeks ago. And then they came out and had another impressive win this last weekend in Arizona with a Josh Jacobs 80-yard touchdown run in overtime. And they're just playing a little looser, a little freer.
Yeah.
And now they get to play the Chargers. And they played them in week 1, and they absolutely blew that game. And that was in that essence, in that moment of early in the season with Josh McDaniel, that they just, they were losing games they should have won. Well, guess what this week? They're going to win a game they should win. They're home dogs, and they're getting 1.5. Those Chargers should have lost one. I said they won the game in Arizona last week. I apologize. They won the game in Seattle. The Chargers won the team in Arizona last week, and they should have easily lost that game. That coach is just an absolute bum. I got a lot of bums as coaches in the NFL. If anybody wants to spend some time talking, I got my list, and he's on there. Brandon Staley, you stink. And yeah, you went for 2 and won that game. I get it, but I mean, you just find ways that you shouldn't even been, worried about Arizona in that game with the talent you have versus the mess that they have. But this week it comes and bites you. I think the team that's playing a little more freer, a little more fun, and winning games 2 in a row in overtime will take down the Los Angeles Chargers. I'll take the Vegas Raiders this week plus the 1.5.
Yeah, the thing with the Chargers, they're just not what we thought they were going to be.
They're not.
They're really not. And the coach bears a lot of that, and they deal with injuries all the time. It's really interesting. I feel like they're wasting Justin Herbert right now. So,
they are, but he's just a buffoon, man. Like the shit that he does is just. It's mind-boggling, and they got away with one last week because Cliff Kingsbury is just that much of an idiot too.
Right.
So.
Right.
So
as you were saying, I was starting to run through my list of who I think are bum coaches. I already have 4, like real quick.
Let me ask you this before you go to your third pick, because I got one that nobody probably has right now. But I'm telling you, this Mike McDaniels, is that his name? The one in Miami? An absolute stiff. Like an absolute, he's a cartoon show, is what he is. How do you throw the ball 37 times and run it 7 in the first half and let your quarterback get absolutely blistered and murdered and almost another concussion when you're up 30-0? And then you come out in the third quarter and you throw 8 more times in your first 11 throws and you get sacked 3 of them.
Yeah.
This guy, like,
he's got a formula for what he does, and it's getting your quarterback in harm's way all the time. That's what it is. It's like he's replaceable. So to hope that I finally get off the 2-loss schneid, I'm taking a chance here. I usually don't like to go bet against home dogs, but I gotta do it. There's rumblings out there that the GOAT wants to get on a plane and fly back north and go to New England. Things are getting weird. They're really weird. It's weird that they're talking about, reporters are reporting on it like Tom Brady could go back to New England next year. Would it be a great storyline? Sure. But like, you're almost like undoing everything you did by leaving. I think it's a weird thing. And the Bills played down to the Detroit Lions on Thanksgiving, as we talked about, squeaked away a win. Really, I thought Detroit had in the bag. I think Buffalo is much better than the way that they played. And I think that the Pats, with this talk of, obviously they're like, Tom Brady can go around and say, I want to go back to New England. But I think in the NFL to actually have reporters speaking on this, I think there has to be some smoke, which means that there's some fire somewhere. So with that being said, I think it's becoming a clown show. They had the Mac Jones versus the Bailey Zappi, debate earlier this year and everything that's going on with that. I don't like it. I don't like what's going on in New England. I know they played the Vikings tough, but the Vikings beat them as they should. I like Buffalo to have a bounce back game from last week, especially with a 10-day rest, to go into New England and take care of business and win by a touchdown.
Yeah, I like it. I think someone asked me earlier on another show and said, this just looks like a public play. And it is. It probably is.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean all public plays lose, right? Yeah. Like, I hate that people it's like when you talk chalk or you talk other things, like it's such a bad thing, right? To be on the one side. It's not always, you don't have to be contrarian every single time. And in this case, I actually agree with you. I think Buffalo, listen, they snuck one out. They didn't play perfect on Thanksgiving, but they got a team that on knee and claw at you. They know this New England team. And what are they? 0-2 they've lost to the Dolphins and Jets so far.
Yeah.
This isn't one they're going to take lightly.
You can't afford to, be 0-3 in the division. So
not at all. Hey, I hate it, but I'm torn between my last pick here between two games, but I think I'm gonna lay my sword on a big number, and I usually don't do this. But I think I'm gonna take the Dallas Cowboys minus the 11 versus the Indianapolis Colts. The Jeff Sideline show is starting to turn into Pee Wee Herman on Saturday mornings. It really is, man. Not calling timeout late, just letting this thing run down, and even justify that you had the right play in the bag. You got Matt Ryan that doesn't throw more than 5 yards over the line of scrimmage. Ivan Drago said it best. If he dies, he dies. And I just think, the Cowboys are going to have that attitude come Sunday night. And I think they're going to pummel this guy. He's got no movement. He got sacked late in that game. It was a critical play. And yeah, they can play decent with their, Colts can probably keep the Cowboys at a little bit arm's length with their defense, but I just don't see this one being very close at all. I think Dallas is rocking and rolling, and rightfully so. And they're going to hit their wall somewhere because it's the Mike McCarthy show. He's up on my list, by the way.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Yeah, but this week, I think he's actually the better coach. I think they win by 2 touchdowns. It pains me, but I would put my money on the Dallas Cowboys this week.
I would too, thinking about it. I mean, the Eagles defense, they were able to hold Jonathan Taylor in check for the most part. Again, it's kind of like what you predicted for Derrick Henry. He had 80 yards rushing and a touchdown, and it all came early. Just like you said, Henry, his big play came in chunks. So when you look at Dallas and what their defense can do, the Eagles were able to, eliminate their defense by running with Jalen Hurts in part of the game. Matt Ryan can't do that, as you're saying. So I think, and that's the reason why the Eagles were able to squeak out a win, because they could run the ball effectively against them. And I think the Cowboys can do the same. But they actually do that just with their running backs, but they have a 1-2 punch in running backs, because Zeke looked like the Zeke I haven't seen in a while. I'm a big Tony Pollard fan, but Zeke looked good last week.
He did. He's
better as of late.
So he does look better. Maybe that time off helped him. But Pollard's a better player. But they need, like, that change of pace is really nice for them. It does work well for them. Yeah. All right, that wraps it up for me on my end. I'm going Indianapolis. I'm going Dallas. I'm going Las Vegas. And we started off with the New York Giants. So 2 NFC East teams, 1 AFC West. And you got
Lions, Rams, Bills.
Okay. I like it. I like it a lot. So we move on to another sport near and dear to our heart, one that just got us to the World Series. And Mark, we were talking pre-show here. There's some hot stove news finally for the Philadelphia Phillies. I think we're getting closer to something that could be reality. Fill us in.
A very slow sizzle is now starting to go. Everybody's coming out. Today was Report Central Day. You had Buster Olney. You had John Morosi. I'm trying to think of where the other one was, but I see, and they all came out around the same time, probably about midday, like 11, 12, 1 o'clock-ish. John Morosi said pretty much that all signs are pointing that Trey Turner is coming to Philadelphia. Buster Olney had a similar take, but not as specific. Like you'll hear, he said, it's told that the Phillies are, a longtime agent said the Phillies are getting one of the elite shortstops that are available. And then they said it was Bogarts, Correa, Swanson, or Turner. And then a surprise twist. Again, I forget what the source was, so it's take it for what it is. But the Rays and Phillies have emerged as suitors for Jacob deGrom. And then one other piece that I found interesting that I saw a little bit before coming on the show. Zach Gallen, pitcher for the Arizona Diamondbacks, tweeted out 3 of the eyeball emojis. And knowing his local ties, you would think that maybe something's going on there, that maybe they would be in store for a player of his caliber. So we'll see. But with all that, there's a lot to unpack there. What does, how does that news sound to you? Where do you?
Well, I'm aligned with you with the shortstop. We always knew one's coming here. Like it just
one of them, yeah.
But I think it's always been just the idea of Trey Turner has just seemed to be the perfect fit for this team with the Washington National ties with Bryce Harper and his NL East ties. So I still think it's him. I think if I had a preference and I could rank them for you, it is Trey, then Bogarts, then Correa. I know a lot of people will probably flip those two. Correa, for me, he's just I know he's only like 26 or 27. It just seems like he's been around so long already that they might have dried that well a little bit. But I wouldn't argue either way. And then Dansby isn't even on my radar, so it's funny that I think the Braves are re-signing him. And then from your news, Zach Gallen is a guy that at one point he went almost 50 innings. I want to say it was high 30s, low 40s probably, but shutout streak. And he was fantastic this year. They actually finished in the top, I want to say 4 or 5 in NL Cy Young votes. So this is all off the top of my head, obviously. But getting someone of his caliber would be just an amazing get. But my overall reaction is I prefer DeGrom. And because that's money versus assets, Zach Gallen's still under contract. I think DeGrom has something to prove still. And if you bring him here with Zach Wheeler, who was his buddy back in New York, and you package up Trey too, Oh man. I wouldn't think you could have a better offseason. Trey and DeGrom, you get the top two in both areas. Wow. Because we've heard Carlos Rodon, right? And
Right.
you,
That was where I was going to go next.
they both played at NC State. I want to say Turner and Rodon played college ball together. So there's that link there. But man, I'll take DeGrom. I would. I take. Oh man.
I mean, I obviously. So my thought on this is, I would prefer Rodon over DeGrom, just because DeGrom has so many injury issues. It just seems like he's always on the mend, and he's older, where you get somebody a little more solid and you probably don't have to pay him as much as you're paying DeGrom. Like, I think DeGrom is a Scherzer deal. Pay him what you're paying a top, MVP caliber player to pitch every fifth day. And then, like he did for New York, like he missed half of the season. It's just, I'm not mad about it, and I would be happy about it if that were the case. And there are a couple suitors for him. It's not like the Phillies are running away with it, where everybody's linking the Phillies and Trey Turner. But I think it's the Rays, the Giants, the Phillies, maybe the Braves, and there might be like another team. Obviously, there's multiple teams inquiring about him because he's that good. And if you get a healthy Jacob deGrom, then I eat all my words. But I still would prefer a Rodon. But obviously, don't get me wrong, I would take deGrom in a heartbeat. I just worry about him being injured a lot.
No, I hear you there, but sometimes I worry about the way that New York does some things up there, and sometimes when they get out of there, Zach Wheeler and some others, they tend to free up their motion and some other things. I mean, I don't want to say like DeGrom was playing for his free agency. Let's just be honest. I think he could have pitched a little earlier than he did this year, but he knew he wanted to be perfectly healthy and be able to zip that 100-mile-an-hour fastball and showcase it so that he could get paid. So I think he took his time a little bit this year. We'll see. I see Pedro. I see just magic in DeGrom. Now, granted, the age but couldn't you get away with just 3 years probably with DeGrom?
I would think so, but you're going to have a lot of money for it.
35, 40, you probably
a lot of money, and then you're going Trey Turner on top of that. Then you got Bryce.
Yeah.
I mean, I know you're and you got JT.
Yeah, but you did free up a bunch of money. Segura was 18 on the books.
Castellanos and Schwarber. I mean, it's a lot. It's a lot of money.
No, I get it. And maybe I'm being a little greedy here, but I think that if I could get the top two, I can make this work. But for me, Turner just fits everything that you need. You need the contact, you need speed, and with this team, you need to manufacture runs. That's when we got shut down last 3 games in the World Series, when we scored 2 runs in the last 3. It was a lot of it. We didn't have men on base.
Right. Yeah, no, he would be perfect for that, obviously. I'm saying there's no reason not to go get a shortstop, because then you move Stott over the second. You have your middle infield set. There's absolutely they don't have anybody in the farm that is anywhere close at this point to coming up. Yeah. And even with Stott, Stott's not a Gold Glover yet, and he's still, I think we saw his hitting improve a lot, but you need to solidify one of those two positions. Either the shortstop or the second baseman has to be a legit hitter. And I think you bring in Turner and somebody who can play the position too. It's no doubt you have to go there. And I agree with your ranking of them. And I think that if it's not Turner, it's Bogaerts, because of the history with
Dombrowski. Yep. Yeah. No, I agree. But I still think there's some other, if you can, obviously the way baseball works, nothing's going to fall until one of the big chips fall. And it might be Aaron Judge has to wait to make all this happen. We'll see. Yeah. There are rumors out there today that Aaron Judge has a $300 million contract offer from the New York Yankees. And if I'm him, what am I waiting for? Because listen, when you're in the $300 million range, you got about 2 or 3 teams that really can afford you.
I can afford it.
And,
Yeah.
and that's the reality of it. I think the Yankees are bidding against the Mets, and I think that's all it is out there right now. I don't think I see a big market for Aaron Judge. So I hope that does happen sooner than later, and he does
Sure.
understand that his deal is probably impacting free agency right now.
It absolutely is. It absolutely is, because it's still been relatively quiet. But today was one of the first days that I started seeing legit rumors and, the big guns tweeting out what they were thinking going on.
All right, we got about a few minutes left here. Let's talk Philadelphia 76ers tonight. They lose to the Cavaliers in Cleveland. Cavs were just hot. They were on fire. But really, I'm starting to watch the games with my 8-year-old's into it, and he's just yelling at the TV. I love it. But he the same thing we're pointing out: bad defense, bad offense. And really, what I want to key on is the second point that I said there: bad offense. The Sixers were on quite a run here. I know it's against bad teams, but I think they were 4-1 or 3-1 without Joel. 2 against the Magic. I get it, but the ball just moves so much better. And we talked about it last week, how you got to get Shake Milton in the game more. You got to be able to implement some other players. Melton, obviously, we have a lot of confidence in, but Paul Reed too, into the offense. And then tonight, I see a point where there's Matisse Thybulle and PJ Tucker on the floor at the same time, and they're passing up open shots and then throwing bricks off the backboard. And it's just like, first off, I'm absolutely done with the Matisse project. He is an absolute waste of space anymore. How much I loved him a year or two ago, you got to subtract like negative from that right now, because he is just so far down on my list. I want him out of here. I want him far. Like, it doesn't matter if you can steal a ball or two. But getting back to the offense, it's stagnant with Embiid. When I said we saw balls move, we just were able to get some free-flowing offense. I mean, he says the right things. He said the right thing the other day after they beat the Hawks. Oh, I can't wait till I move the ball. We're moving it so much better. And then I just watch what they scored, 80 tonight? Like, come on, man.
Yeah, I think it was 85, maybe somewhere around there. But
disgusting.
Yeah. No, it's tough. It goes back to what we were talking about. I mean, he can be careless with the ball, and it's a big deterrent because you're right. Like, when he's not on the court, defenses, because like when without Harden, without Maxey, without Embiid, you don't know who you're supposed to really take on. And like Tobias is decent with the ball on the floor. Like he's not a liability when it comes to that. So, you can't really hunker down on him, because then you can get to other guys. With Embiid, they're going to double team. They're going to attack. And he's always trying to get his. I mean, every possession, it's, sometimes you just know that when he gets the ball in the low post, he's putting the ball on the floor and he's trying to make his shot happen. It's great. But because he's so careless with the ball, and good defenses will take and just swipe. And there are so many times where he's just forcing the issue and trying to make it happen. And even when he scores, you still are like, that wasn't pretty. You did it. But it felt like against other teams, maybe you won't be able to do that as much. So I agree. It's unfortunate. I'm interested to see what things look like, when Harden comes back. He's supposed to come back Monday against Houston. So that'll be interesting to see, if they can reset their ball movement, and they can reset what they do. I saw a decent amount of Paul Reed tonight. So hopefully we're kind of getting on that train, playing him a little more. But I'll be interested to see how that goes moving forward. But there was a decent amount of Montrezl Harrell tonight too.
Yeah, and
that was also in blowout time, I think.
Montrezl didn't play at all, I think, on Monday against the Hawks. Right. And, Reed still seems a little bit lost to where he needs to go and where he needs to move. I see players like trying to yell at him at times.
Right.
But that's what happens when you never play guy.
Yeah.
And, he's learning in trial by fire. So have a little patience with Reed, and I got it. Like, I've seen enough of Harrell. I just really have. He's beaten off the ball. on defense, and then on offense, he's pushed off the ball. Like he tries to get to his right hand and throw this hook shot up. He's hitting it from like 11 feet, which I don't need because he's not powerful like that. He's pushed around a little easily, but he's got the mouth. I get it, and he's got the fire. But for all my money, I'd rather take a Dwight Howard right now. Like I'd rather take an Andre Drummond. Like this. So what I'm saying is, give me Paul Reed more than Montrez. We won't get there because Doc is too invested
when it comes to his younger guys.
Yeah, and he invested in these older guys, and just Doc is terrible, but that's, we all know that. But tough loss tonight. They could have tied they could have jumped the Cavs in the standings, but they go to Memphis on Friday. Going to be tough, but then especially with that style of basketball, if you can't score, you can't play Memphis. And then, I think you said, Houston's the game after that.
Yeah.
Maybe a Harden return. We'll see.
Yeah.
The problem I have with a Harden return is if he's playing 37 minutes, that means Shake's getting 10.
Right.
And they're just too
similar. A lot of good Shake lately. Yeah.
They're too similar. They need to be able to move with the ball. And Harden, the thing we hated about Harden the most in all the other cities is he holds it for 19 seconds of the shot clock.
Yeah.
If we could get him not to do that, then we'll see. But he hasn't been the problem this year. He's actually been okay.
Yeah.
So, it's still weird. 12-10 just feels like we're not a threat. When I'm watching Boston, Tatum put 49 up tonight and beat the Miami Heat. Booker put 51. Like those are the two teams that two of the better teams in the NBA. Luka putting up triple doubles last night. Like I think we're just. And Giannis, I think Giannis goes for 37-11 tonight against New York, like the Knicks. I don't want to – I know Embiid's had his points, but I just don't think we're in the echelon of those teams anymore.
We'll see. I come back in February.
Yeah.
I want to see where this team is at then. I think things will look a lot different then. I really do. Well,
I think that's a very, very fair assessment, and I'll come back then, but oh man, it's just
it's not the most comforting thing for sure. I totally understand that.
Yeah, they're good, but they're not like, I don't know. But anyway, that pretty much wraps it up for our Wednesday night edition here on Heat Ratio Sports Network. Our Fourth and Go, pretty cool because tonight, look at the number down low, was 4040 here. We started the new year with the Heat Ratio Sports Network, and we're rounding in to wrap up this new year with, upwards of 45 great shows here. We love where we are right now. We love being able to provide this type of content, the voice of the fans here on YouTube as part of the Heat Ratio Sports Network. And we definitely got some more ideas and things to come in the new year. So hang with us as we develop and build this brand here for you, the Philadelphia sports fans. Mark, you got anything else?
Got a good Eagles game coming up on Sunday. Though, like you said, the weather's going up and down. But you know what, Dave? Good luck with your putting the lights up tomorrow.
Thanks. I might wait till Friday.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Either way, you'll be good.
December 1st, here we come. And on to a great month of football and action here. World Cup USA. Can't wait to watch them on Saturday. We didn't get to talk too much about that.
Sure.
But, Pulisic, the new Captain America. That Patrick Reed. So until next week, we are Philly 4 for 4 plus so much more. Fourth and Go. I'm Dave Gluckner. That's Mark Tomasini. Heat Ratio Sports Network.